Teachers of Reddit. What are some signs that a student is being abused or lives in a toxic environment? It's pretty obvious, but I had a kid come in with a black eye. I didn't think anything of it at first because he was a very active child with a lot of energy. So I nonchalantly asked what happened. He instantly responded with, "I ran into a door." And the way he said it was so quick and forced that it sounded rehearsed. Any teacher is required to report suspicion of abuse, even if it may be on nothing. Turns out his moms were the worst kind of evil. Regularly beat him and made him sit in a closet for hours if he acted out. Forced him to stand for hours holding water buckets, and if he stumbled they'd him more. Believe it or not, his baby sister had it worse. Found out she was being sexually molested by the stepmom while her biological mother watched. Now that I'm looking back on it, I can realize something was wrong because she was so developmentally delayed when it came to speech. Thankfully, the pieces of shit that called themselves parents were arrested, and both children went on to live with their grandmother. But it's disgusting what happened to them. State of hygiene. Are they washed? Hair brushed? Clothes clean and different from day to day? This has to somewhat be taken into context with the environment of the neighborhood. But even families who don't have many clothes will not want their children seen in dirty clothes at school. Kids don't like their hair brushed typically. But if it is continuously tangled, even matted, it wouldn't has raised my interests. Marks in places that can't be explained. Consistency in unexplained bruises or red marks. Many children who are sexually abused will deal with it by showing an appropriate love/affection towards their abuser or teachers who are in line with their abuser. Trying to always sit in their lap, hug them, kiss them. But it has a different feel than the hugging most kids show. Just like it can feel different watching two adults hug if they are friends or partners. They also tend to play with concepts that they should know nothing about when it comes to sex. Listen to what they say. I work with young children. They talk about everything if given the chance by a trusted adult and not pushed. Not a teacher. But I worked with kids in a restorative justice program, basically community service. And there would be kids who would have so many hours they would come in after school and weekends for months. We had some kids who would do something petty and stupid literally weeks before they were done. Despite being fairly successful in the program, it was because coming in every day and having staff ask about their life, make sure they had lunch every day and give some structure to their life was something they craved and didn't have at home. They would self-sabotage in order to keep it. It was so sad. Imagine how bad your home life has to be to choose to do court-ordered manual labor rather than be at home. From my experience teaching middle schoolers for the last decade, they smell particularly of cigarette smoke, weed, or just general unbearable BO. They either never miss a day when it's clear they should because they are obviously sick, or they miss school at least 2 times a week because their parents can't be bothered to get them there. They either avoid adults like the plague and will literally run away from any authority figure, or are very clingy to adults. And on the more extreme end are things like wetting themselves and showing a severe lack of empathy. My sister and I had perfect or near perfect attendance for years growing up, and the philosophy for sickness was that you can't be sick if you didn't throw up. I did throw up once and my mom said, "Now don't you feel better?" Off to school I went. I had a terrible experience as a student who was abused at home. At one point I had a black eye every few months or so. Once I had to go do PE in shorts and I had a huge black spot on my inner thighs which spread from the genitalia almost to the knee. I always told people I fell from my bike. Broke out crying out of nowhere regularly. My grades were awful and I had to repeat one entire year. I was a teenager and actually asked for help to the school counselor, which after listening to me said, "Since your younger sister is involved, we'd have to act and call the police. If you don't want, we can just pretend we didn't have this talk." I was scared, so nothing actually happened. She left me with a bunch of sort of propaganda pamphlets. She was into politics in my school town, asking me to give them to random people. Teachers kept on treating me like a rebellious teenager with behavioral problems, even though they made many talks about speaking up to the teacher if we had problems at home or we were being abused. This was millennially 5 to 10 years ago. Now I can usually recognize anyone who had been beaten or abused at home when they were kids in a short conversation. "I'm so sorry this happened to you. My heart hurts for you. I don't know what the rules on mandated reporting in Italy, but that counselor should have taken action and reported it. Any of those teachers should have, honestly. I'm so sorry that basically everyone failed you. I hope you're doing better now. I absolutely fucking despise that counselor with every single fiber of my being. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. One sign of physical abuse, including severe beatings, is when students dress to cover every inch of their bodies. It's especially noticeable during times of warmer weather when most students are wearing far less. These abused students have scars so searing that they can't sit back in a chair normally due to the pain from sores. Other telltale signs include occasional facial bruises or wounds to lips where they've been punched. This 100%. I taught middle school and some of my female students especially wore giant sweatshirts and long pants. Even in the sweltering Florida heat. Those students often wound up being in abusive situations of some sort. Those signs particularly combined with hypersensitivity, avoidance of parents, and occasionally signs of disordered eating. Wait, so that's why people have been concerned. I just really like long sleeves and pants. Kids who harm themselves also try to cover every inch of their body. Self-harm is usually also a clear sign of abuse. In high school, kids who don't ever seem to want to go home at the end of the day. Who seem less happy / act out before or after school holidays. Same for elementary, they come in early to help. They stay after dismissal to help you clean. And they don't move quickly if their car number is called. Edit. These are not hard fast signs. Some of my very happy kiddos with homes that appear to be solid are like this because they enjoy hanging out with me. But when students appear to want as much time away from home as possible, my ears start to prick up. Band teacher here. A lot of times when teaching kids in beginning band how to play their instruments early on, you have to touch various body parts. Hands, of course. Arms. Hips and shoulders for getting them into proper posture alignment. I always ask before I touch anywhere, is it okay if I touch your blank? Almost all kids say yes. I've had to that have said no. One was a student with autism and did not want to be touched. And the other turns out was being abused at home. It's not a guarantee, of course, but often a sign. Kudos for giving them body autonomy by asking first. This jolted an unexpected memory from high school. We had a gym teacher who would always help the kids jump when we did gymnastics exercises, and somehow he always seemed to miss grab when a girl was jumping. Butt, groin, you name it. With boys his hand placement was immaculate. But with the girls he always grabbed parts by accident. All the girls were talking about it, saying what a pervert he was. I don't think anyone ever reported him though. Edit. I did not expect this to blow up. So sorry so many of you experienced similar awful things. Hugs. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe for more Reddit After Dark. Have a good night.